Everybody is sick. Friends like you, my script is finally ready for the stage, which will lead me into topic number 3. What should I do next? It's all coming up on episode number 15 of Road Noise Life, 1 mile at a time. Hello again, I'm Michael Blackston, and this is Road Noise Life, 1 mile at a time. I'm your host, and you're traveling along with me in the passenger seat as we learn to live life 1 mile at a time. If you're listening to me and you hear some noise under the sound of my voice and you say, what is that going on? What's that rumble? That's the noise of the road, hence the reason we have named it Road Noise. What this is a life journal, and you and I are taking this trip. This time we're on the way back from Winfield, Alabama, episode number 14. I recorded a little bit late, and I knew I was going to go ahead and record 2 episodes on this trip, one on the way up, one on the way back. So episode 14 got recorded on the way to Winfield, Alabama, and number 15 is getting recorded on the way home from Winfield, Alabama. It's been another kind of rough week. I don't really want to complain a whole lot because my life is blessed and business is doing really well, but it just seems like I cannot shake this sickness. And just when I think I'm the only one complaining, I get to Winfield and I get a phone call from my wife who tells me she can't take my daughter to daycare because she's throwing up everywhere. And we weren't expecting that. My mom was watching my daughter for us, and my wife went to pick her up and take her home on Monday night. And she was on the way home and got 5 minutes down the road from my mom's house, and she heard the sound from the back of the car. Parents, if you've ever had a child, let it all out in the back of the car. You probably know the sound that I'm talking about. And she heard that sound, turned around, and my daughter was just throwing up everywhere. So she turned around to try to get her cleaned up and said, Michael's out of town. If she's sick, she can't go into daycare the next day. You're going to have to watch her again. So they cleaned her up, and my daughter stayed with my mom. Well, here's the kicker. My son was with my wife and my daughter when that happened, and he was headed home too. And when they got home, he had been out for the Christmas holidays through Monday. They didn't go to school on Monday. They were heading back on Tuesday. So Monday night they were heading home, got home, and Noah begins to throw up. So now we've got both of our kids that have some virus that they weren't expecting. Nobody knew anything about it. There were no signs of it in the family. It just started happening with my daughter, and then my son later that evening, just a couple of hours later, and he threw up everything he had eaten earlier. Now, let me say, I'm not trying to be gross with this, so I'm going to quit talking about that particular aspect of this sickness. So when I'm talking about, just know that when I'm talking about this sickness going through my family, that's the type of thing that's going on. It was nausea, it was awful, and it happened to my daughter and then my son within hours of each other. So they finally get in touch with me, and I'm trying to get over what I've got. I don't know if you can tell in my voice. You probably can, especially if you compare episodes where I'm healthy to episodes when I'm not. This particular episode, you can really tell the difference in my voice. And trust me when I tell you that I'm editing out the parts you're not hearing where I have to turn the microphone away from my mouth and cough, turn my head and cough, or take a sip of this large tea that I've got sitting in the dashboard here, because I have an upper respiratory thing that I cannot kick. It will go away, and I am on the healing end, but it's just one of those things. If you've ever had an upper respiratory thing, they hold on for a long time. And this one is holding on for a long time. I feel okay. I don't feel great, but I feel okay. Other podcast hosts have picked up the topic of whether you should even bother doing a podcast if you're sick. If I were at home, I probably wouldn't pick this up. I would probably just apologize that I had skipped a week, but I'm on the road, and I like talking to you when I'm on the road, and also it helps pass the time. And I feel okay. My voice is weak, but I feel okay. So I'm trying to get better. I'm hopped up on Dayquil during the day and NyQuil at night. My wife calls me on Tuesday and says, or Monday night, Tuesday, yeah, it was Monday. I was already in Winfield, Alabama on Monday. I keep getting it mixed up, thinking that because my son was out of school on Monday that I was out of work. I wasn't. I went to work on Monday. So she calls me Monday night and says, this has happened, and I'm all alone, and I'm not going to be able to go to work tomorrow because now Noah's sick as well, and she was worried about calling into work right after she started this brand new job she loves. And I'm thinking, where's this shoe going to drop? Because I'm waiting on Kayla to call me and tell me she's nauseated and having this same type of virus or whatever is going around. But she didn't say that. She, at this point, says she's feeling fine. I just talked to her a few minutes ago before I hit the record button on my computer and started this episode, and she's feeling fine. Everybody's feeling actually better. The kids are better. Noah and Merida spent the day yesterday as well, really, really sick, but today they've kind of spent the day resting and gotten better, and they both feel better. The fevers have broken, and that's good. But now my mom has it, and shortly thereafter my sister got the same thing, so they're in the same fix. Not to mention that Monday and Tuesday, I don't know about today, but Monday and Tuesday my stepdad had called into work with the same thing that I've got, and my sister had just gotten over having what I've got. So this year has started out not good for my side of the family, but that's not all. In fact, I'm in the middle of writing a blog right now. I had my dinner earlier today, and I sat down and began writing my second blog for the week. I released 2 of them a week, and I believe, I released one on Monday. So I usually try to release one on Monday and one on Thursdays, and I'm writing the one to release tomorrow. About halfway through it, and it's all about everybody being sick. My Uncle Greg, my mom's sister's husband, has walking pneumonia. My mom's same sister's son is very ill, or was this weekend, with an upper respiratory sickness. My aunt has also had it. Like I said, my mom and my sister both have this virus. My stepdad had an upper respiratory thing. On top of that, my mom tried to slice her finger off with a new kitchen gadget she got for Christmas on Monday. Didn't have to go to the doctor. I tried to see if she needed stitches. I asked her, she said it wasn't the type of cut that needed stitches, but she's wearing a rubber glove on her hand so she doesn't get it wet. My stepfather's mother last week, or was it the week before last, fell going into a karaoke establishment, fell flat on her face, and they didn't even know if she was going to make it at first. She is doing better, but she's got a long road to recovery. Your prayers are coveted for her. And they live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. But then Monday night when I was talking to my mom about all of this stuff, and they were just regaling me with all of the stuff that had happened Monday, they also tell me that my stepdad's dad had a wreck and flipped his truck and doesn't even remember what happened. Had a couple of broken ribs, and he, I guess, covets your prayers too. He seems to be okay. They're going up, I think, this weekend, taking a trip to Myrtle Beach to see them, make sure everything's okay. But it's just been a wild week, and Monday was the worst. And on top of that, after my wife had gone back to my mother's house to get my daughter cleaned up from all of that going on in the back seat, she goes back out to the car later to get in the car and go home finally, and the battery's dead, because she had gotten into such a hurry to get my daughter cleaned up. She had just left the car, not running, but in the kind of forward position, the key mechanism in the forward position. And so it left the engine, or the computer, I guess, going, and it ran down the battery. So then my stepdad, who is really sick, has to come out and jump off the battery in the middle of the night. It's extremely cold. And I thought I had it bad, sitting in my cozy room, dazed out on NyQuil. It's been a rough week, and everybody seems to be sick. So please take care of yourself this winter season. In the blink of an eye, you can be healthy. In the blink of an eye, you can go from healthy to feeling like you got to get better to die. I mean, it's awful. And so I hope that if you're listening to me, look and see if you can't take precautions to try to do what you need to do to try to stay healthy, keep yourself nice and toasty and warm, and wipe your hands, wash your hands before you touch yourself, touch your face, and make sure you wipe all your surfaces down. Sneeze into your armpit, not into your hand. All the stuff you know to do, just wash your hands vigorously during this flu season. Keep some antibacterial, whatever you got to do. I'm thinking about taking some antibacterial stuff and rubbing it around the insides of my nose, the little edge between the inside and outside of my nose with a Q-tip. I've heard that's good to do. You might want to, don't take that from me. You might want to check with your doctor or something and see if that's okay to do, but that's something I heard about. I'm going to check and see if that'll help. Supposedly it helps kind of catch and kill some of the bacteria you're breathing in. Look and see what you can do to stay healthy, because this is working out to be kind of a tough season for getting sick, and it hangs on. Now, this virus my daughter and my son have had, and my mom and my sister, from what they say, it's about a 12 to 24-hour virus, and then you're okay. But you can't ingest anything during that time. It all comes back. So keep that in mind and just be careful. Plenty of vitamin C, take your vitamins, whatever you got to do. My sister-in-law and her husband and kids have all had the same thing that my daughter and son have had. They've been working through that as well. So it's going through South Carolina really hard right now, and I imagine it's going to go through Georgia as well. Since we're right across the border, we'll probably be seeing people on our Facebook pages who we know in our hometown that are starting to get it too. So I'm just hoping that turns out okay. That's a lot of negativity, but it will be okay. It's part of going through the winter. But I have had a decent week other than just feeling bad. Financially, it was a really good week. Last night, I made a huge accomplishment that I'm extremely excited about. You'll probably hear more about it in the upcoming weeks as the episodes go along and as I kind of round things out and get things put into place to hopefully stage my next play. I finished it yesterday. It's called Friends Like You. Now, in previous episodes, I have talked about finishing the first draft of Friends Like You, and I had some people read it, and I took a few pointers and matters of opinion from those people, and I ended up not changing a whole lot. There were some ideas that were kicked around from some friends of mine that were good ideas, but didn't really fit the way I wanted the characters to go. And so I ended up going with my idea of the characters for the most part. I just feel really good. So I didn't change a whole lot about it, but I did go through line by line and just kind of tighten up the dialogue, tighten up the stage direction, and I finished the final draft last night. And I'm excited about it because this will be the second show that I have ready for the stage. The first show was called Mr. Long Said Nothing. And honestly, if it weren't for Mr. Long Said Nothing and what I went through with that show, I wouldn't be as excited about finishing this one because I wouldn't know about the prospect of putting it on a stage. But because I was allowed to produce Mr. Long Said Nothing, that kind of gave me a foot in the door to be able to get this one produced, or at least to have the courage to get this one produced. One good thing about being really tight with your local theater, if you're a playwright, is if you have something to offer and you're willing to let them produce it free of charge, free of, not having to pay for royalties or anything like that, that's a big deal for that theater because they can possibly make a profit because they don't have to spend any money on royalties. And royalties are an expensive part of putting on a production. So we did Mr. Long, and I'm really not sure how far in the black they went with Mr. Long, but it was a well-received show for the people that came to see it. The audiences weren't enormous, but the ones that came to see it were very complimentary. And I believe that has given me kind of a good leg up as far as possibly getting Friends Like You put on. And I even have a director ready. I directed Mr. Long Said Nothing myself. It was my first show ever going to be staged. It had some interesting aspects about it that I knew that I wanted to make sure that at least the very first production of it, things went through the way I wanted them to for that. But this show, the new one, is a comedy. There are 5 people in the show, 4 major characters and 1 secondary character. And so it's going to be a small cast. It takes place in one apartment. There aren't any scene changes as far as, well, I shouldn't say scene changes. There aren't any set changes. It's going to be really simple to produce. You put the set up, it's there, you go with it. And I've already got a director who is willing to look at the show and has an interest after hearing the synopsis of the play of directing it for me. And I'm excited about that because this time, because I travel all the time, anytime I do a show, I have to miss at least 1 rehearsal a week. And when I did Mr. Long Said Nothing, that was okay because I had an assistant director who took up the slack when I couldn't be there on Thursday nights. And we would talk, and we had a plan of what we needed to go through, and he knew what I wanted. And so it worked fairly smoothly, but it won't necessarily always work out that way, and I don't want to have to worry about it. So I decided that if I'm going to be a playwright, I'm going to have to see other directors' visions of my shows anyway. So I decided this time I want to be a consultant. And I spoke to one of my favorite directors. In fact, he's the director who's directing The Addams Family, the musical, and my wife and I are playing Gomez and Morticia. His name's Bob Larson, and I really like Bob as a director, especially in stuff that kind of is along the lines of what Friends Like You is, which is, it's kind of hard to explain and put a label on what type of comedy it is. It's kind of a buddy comedy, but there's some slapstick in it too. It's situational. It's almost like a situation comedy you would see on TV, but something on the stage. It's kind of similar to that type of a thing, and I think Bob will do a really good job if he decides it's something he wants to do. So I'm getting ready to give him the script and go from there. So the only thing left to do with this show is write a few notes, make some adjustments as the show is being produced as we go along, as we workshop it, and things that maybe didn't work out as well, or pieces of dialogue that are hard to get your tongue around, and rewording them, things like that go along with putting a show together for the first time. But I'm going to be a consultant in this situation, whoever directs the show, and I'm just going to be there at rehearsals and keep my mouth shut until the director says, hey, what are you thinking here? And I'm excited about the prospect of this show being staged for the first time and seeing if what I think is funny is something that other people will think is funny. So we'll have to see. But it begs a question. What do I do now? Because I've talked about focus being so important for me, especially going forward into 2016, being focused on one project at a time, getting it finished, just like this was. That was my focus, to get this finished, and now there it is. I'm finished. I'm ready to move forward with it into the next stage. But as far as writing it, it's done. So what's next? I have so many options. I've got a musical that I've been writing for over 20 years, probably 25, going on, probably about 25 years now, going on 25 years now. It's the first draft of it is fully written, fully composed as far as the melody and lyrics of the music go. There's some arrangement that's got to be done, but there's a lot of tweaking of the script. However, I kind of tweaked the script the other day and got it going in the direction I wanted to just on one of my commutes. Just kind of singing in the car. Went from the first song all the way through the entire show, synopsis-wise, and figured out what changes I want to make. So I've got that on the back burner, and that's right in the middle of the process and something it's near and dear to me, and I want to get going with it. But at the same time, there's another project I've got on the back of my mind, several of them. For one, the play, Mr. Long Said Nothing, that I mentioned, I really want to turn that story into a novel. Now, I have started a novel before. I've started several novels before, but I've got one that I'm about 200 pages into, and I've kind of shelved it right now because the basis of the show is very similar to the movie The Age of Adeline. And when I saw the movie come out, actually went to see the movie, and I thought it was quite good. But I wanted to shelve my story for a while because it just kind of had such a similar theme that, well, it disappointed me at first, and I said I need to shelve it and decide if I want to go forward with it. It is different enough that I don't think that anybody would make a comparison, but at the same time, I just, so it's there. That could be started or picked up again, but I'm not feeling that quite yet. I've got The Right Song, which is the musical I was talking about, and then the novelization of Mr. Long Said Nothing, which is, I'm feeling that pretty hot and heavy, and there's a couple of reasons why. First of all, I've already started I've gotten 4 or 5 pages into the first scene, just writing it. One day I took a notebook to eat with me when I didn't have anything else to do, and kind of wrote the first 3 or 4 or 5 pages to see what that tasted like to my mind. And I liked the way it was going, and I would like to try to get the word out for Mr. Long Said Nothing, and it's hard to do, especially when a story is in play, stagecraft form. It's hard to get it going, get anybody, that it's such a niched down interest point that you've got a small group of people to market it to, and those people are not usually interested in something unless they've heard of it before. And so it's just hard to do. I thought maybe turning it into a novel and making it an ebook available on Amazon and stuff like that, maybe I could get the storyline going and get some people interested that way, and then say, hey, this is a stage play as well, and maybe get some people that way interested in it. So I'm kind of leaning towards that. But every time I talk about a new project, my son comes up with, when are you going to finish Prince Ian? Prince Ian is a story that Noah and I started writing back when he was 4 years old, as I was telling stories to him to put him to sleep. It was a bedtime story. We were reading books, and one night he said, let's make up a story. And so we decided that he and I would make up a story together every night about Prince Ian and the magic workshop. And as we progressed every night into the storyline, it got more and more intricate, and I was telling my wife about it, and she said, Michael, that would make a really good book or series of books. It would make a really good, interesting story for young people, preteens, teenagers, and stuff like that. Not along the lines of Harry Potter. I mean, it has a similar flow to it as far as having a few kids who are friends and stuff like that, but it's not the same, it's not a rehashing of that story at all. But at the same time, there's that element that she's talking about that would make kind of a good series. And I started writing the first book, Prince Ian. And I quit on it a while ago because I didn't like the way that I was doing it. I have a hard time writing for kids. I just write way too elaborately for 12-year-olds. And so I've either got to rewrite to gear it more towards teens and adults, or rewrite to gear it more towards younger people. And so I shelved it, and my son keeps asking about it. So I hate to keep putting that on the back burner, but at the same time, I think he only asks about it and thinks about it when he hears me mentioning it. Really, right now, my heart is on Mr. Long. I already have the story. I've already got all of the dialogue. I've just got to beef up the descriptions and put it in novel form, and I don't think it would take all that long to get it done if I would put my mind to it. So I think I've kind of talked myself into that being the next project to go ahead and get done and out of the way, and then maybe after that I'm going to start working on arranging and tweaking up the musical and getting it ready. I've worked so hard and so long on or Friends Like You as a stage play. I'm kind of tired of looking at stage scripts. Right now I'm learning the script to The Addams Family, the musical. I'm looking at that all the time. I've had Friends Like You in front of me as I adjusted and formed that the way I wanted it. I think I want to take a break from creating scripts and stuff like that and go into the novel type area, and from there, if it's time to revisit a script after that, then we'll see. But that's kind of what I got on my mind for this episode. There's really not a whole lot more to talk about. It's going to be another short episode right at 30 minutes, but I think that's okay. I want to keep it between 30 or between 45 minutes and an hour for most episodes. But when you talk nonstop without taking a break and your voice is weak and you're sick, 30 minutes is about all you can handle. And I want to be able to give you something to think about. If you have projects that you're interested in or things that you're doing that you just like to talk about and you feel like everybody gets tired of hearing me talk about this, well, we haven't heard about it yet and we would like to hear about it. I really would like to hear about it. But the only way that you're going to be able to do that and let me know, and maybe if you tell me it's okay, let me tell the listenership about it, is to get in touch with me. How do I get in touch with you, Michael? Well, this is the way you do it. You can get in touch with me via email, and you can email me straight from whatever your favorite email source is. Just email roadnoisepodcast@gmail.com. That's roadnoisepodcast@gmail.com. Or go to www.roadnoisepodcast.com and go to the contact page there, and there's a contact email form that you can just go straight there and email me that way. You can also find us or give us your information or send us a word, drop us a line, whatever you want to say, audibly using your very own voice. And the phone number to do that is 706-389-0401. That's 706-389-0401. That's our hotline. Give us a call. Right now, at this recording, it's still going to say Q1 Go the Theater Show, but ignore that. Q1 Go the Theater Show is now no more, and I'm about to change that hotline to represent Road Noise Podcast and the Artist Brainstorm. So go ahead and leave a message there. It'll go straight to voicemail, and you can leave your message. And if you don't want me to use it on the air, just say don't use this on the air, otherwise I might. But tell me what you've got on your mind. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear your voice. Also, you can get in touch with me through Facebook at facebook.com/Road Noise Podcast. I'd love for you to go there and like the page and join up there and add your flavor to the page. I don't really get very active on it right now, but maybe I'll be able to do that here more lately. And also, I'm on Tumblr, I'm on Instagram as Michael Blackston, I'm on Twitter at Everything Arts. So I'd like to hear from you any of those ways. Between now and the next time we record a podcast, I think I'll be feeling better. I feel pretty good right now. It's just my voice is very weak. And so maybe next time I'm with you, I will have a little more energy to give you a little lengthier show and a little more oomph to my voice. So keep me in your prayers, keep me in your thoughts, and I appreciate you sticking with me. If you're a regular listener, thank you so much for downloading us. Why don't you go to iTunes and give us a review? Let us know what you're thinking that way as well. And when you review us on iTunes, it really does help us to be seen and found on the internet and all that good jazz and stuff like that. One more thing, if you're interested in a funny blog, I have a comedy blog at michaelblackston.wordpress.com. And you can read my comedy blog there. And also in the future, I'm going to be talking about michaelblackston.com. I just bought that domain name, but I don't have a website up for that yet. But michaelblackston.com is going to be kind of a central website where I'm branding myself, and you'll be able to reach all of the destinations I'm involved with through that website as well. But that's coming up soon. So until next time, thanks for riding along in the passenger seat with me on Road Noise as we learn to live life 1 mile at a time.